The Last of Us Part 2 has for a long time now left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Whether you love it or hate it, there is no debating that this game left a lot of fans of the original game conflicted. In ways it split the fanbase. Now I'm a fairly newcomer to the franchise. I only played the first game around a year ago, and I just now finished my playthrough of the sequel. And for over 2.5 years, I've been so intrigued by this discourse surrounding the game. Some people seem to hate it with a burning passion, while others think it's one of the best games of all time. There are even people who are still angry about it to this day. And while it has been a lot of fun watching people rip themselves apart trying to say that Abby is the worst video game character of all time, I really didn't understand this discourse, because I obviously hadn't played the game yet. There are so many videos that I've been wanting to watch to try and understand why this game is so controversial. However, I promised myself that before I delve into the outrage and sour my own experience with this game, that I'd first take the time to give my unfiltered reaction to a game that I've been wanting to play for over a year, and finally had the opportunity to do so. So if you're here for a commentary on the discourse surrounding The Last of Us 2, then you're a bit early, I'm afraid. I'll cover that in a video very soon, but for now, I want to tell you guys about why I think The Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece, at least to me. If you end up agreeing or disagreeing with this video, then I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. And also, I've recently added a membership option for the channel, so if you want to help support me even more than you're already doing, and if you want a couple of perks on the channel, then click the join button next to the subscribe button, which you should also click on if you haven't already. But I think I've weaseled my way into your pockets enough for today. Let's just get into the video. Now, the true heart of the first game wasn't the gameplay, or the plot, or the music, or the setting, it was the characters. What made that game so special was the gradual building of Joel and Ellie's relationship, and their interactions with the many characters they met throughout the story. The sequel follows this trend by once again making this game extremely character-driven, and that's probably why the consensus for this game is so split, because it's a controversial story that takes risks, and so it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And with a game so story and character driven as The Last of Us is, I can definitely understand why some people love it so much and why others hate it. But I digress. As I said, I'll delve into the controversy in a future video, but for now I'm going to explain why I loved it. And the main reason was the characters.
What is the downside to eating a clock? It's time consuming.
Now, while I would have loved to play as Joel once again, I completely understand the direction they took in killing him off early on, to allow Ellie's story to really unfold, and for her to come to grips with her relationship with Joel, after the solemn and honestly sad ending to the last game. I felt with Ellie all the way, and I wanted to get revenge for Joel against Abby. I'd gotten so used to the idea that Ellie was the hero, and this was helped by the positive relationships she had with Dina and Tommy and Jesse. I love the somber moments in this game. Finding that guitar in the music store was a really magical moment to me. But the more we progressed through her journey throughout Seattle, and the more people she murdered, the more she began to mirror Joel, and the more she was starting to lose herself. This isn't to say that I was surprised that Ellie was killing people, of course not, she did that plenty of times in the first game. This world doesn't create heroes, it creates survivors, and like Joel, Ellie is a survivor. I wasn't shocked by the fact that Ellie was killing people, I was shocked at the toll it was taking on her. Seeing Ellie starting to fall apart now that she was finally getting revenge on the people who killed Joel showed that she wasn't feeling better. In fact, it didn't feel like it was supposed to make her feel better, and it seemed like with every kill, Ellie was questioning her purpose more and more. It was starting to severely affect her relationship with Dina, and it ultimately ended in Abby finding their base, shooting Jesse and Tommy, almost killing Dina, and leaving Ellie beaten and broken. I'll get into the ending at the end of this video, but around this point is when the story switches over to Abby. And at first, I didn't know how I felt about playing as Abby. I knew it was going to be for a long time, and I'd gotten so attached to Ellie's story at this point. I began to think that maybe people had a point that Abby's section would ruin the rest of the game for me. However, I was completely wrong. I thought Abby's story would just be a rehashing of Ellie's story with just another point of view, and while this would have been fine, it would have been repetitive. Rather, while we still have this feeling of the story happening simultaneously with Ellie's, Abby's story is so much more than just another point of view, and I think this was needed. Abby's story also mirrors Joel's story from the original in many ways. Having a lot of regret, finding a younger person to protect and care for, doing messed up things for the people you care about, such as turning on her own friends. I just liked Abby's part of the story a lot, and honestly the gameplay was more fun than during Ellie's story. I don't know, I just enjoyed Abby's weapons more. I feel like the missions were more diverse and interesting. I loved the wolves versus scars angle, and I thought that Lev really added to the story and the gameplay. I guess I just overall grew to appreciate Abby as a character and ended up enjoying her part of the story so much more. Now the characters are of course enhanced by an emotionally gripping story. First game was all about love, and this one is about hate and revenge, but it's also about forgiveness. We'll get into this a bit later, but I just genuinely want to talk about the storytelling in these games, because it's unlike anything I've experienced before. As you know, I love watching movies and TV shows, so I don't mind being taken for a ride, where I get to have fun and connect with the characters through the gameplay, but where I have absolutely no say in the story that's being told. Don't get me wrong, I love a good RPG where your choices can influence the story that's unfolding. However, I also really like just being led down a stream where the story naturally unravels in front of you. I like that our actions don't change the story in any way, because this is a story that the creators wanted to tell. It's a story where every little detail is important. Every character motivation has been laid out for a specific reason. I love Naughty Dog's method of writing their stories and their dialogue. I love the cutscenes that flow so seamlessly from the gameplay to the heartfelt moments where the performances really shine. I love the little moments between the characters when you're just walking around. It turns scavenging for resources from a necessity to something I want to do just so I can have a little extra time with these characters. And that's really down to the fact that Naughty Dog understands what makes humans human. They understand what makes humanity so special. From all the flaws and hate we bear to the love and compassion we all have inside of us. It's this complexity that I just can't get enough of, and it makes me so excited that I haven't even touched the Uncharted series. If those games are even half as engaging and emotionally resonant as The Last of Us, which I've heard they absolutely are, then Naughty Dog can easily rise straight to the top of my favorite game studios of all time. But just to end off this segment, I never used to play linear story-focused games. For so many years, I was either an open world player, a PvP multiplayer kind of guy, or I'd play sandbox games. However, after playing through The Last of Us, I realized just how much I'd been missing out on incredible gaming experiences. The stories that Naughty Dog tells are ones that always leave me wanting more. However, it's not just the story of these games that forces me into solitude, it's also the gameplay, which as I mentioned a bit earlier, I really like. I'm not typically a big fan of stealth. Whenever I play an RPG, I almost always leave the stealth perk tree completely dry, while I invest in the combat and otherwise flashy perks. Except of course when I play Skyrim, but then again being a stealth archer in that game isn't really stealth, it's just cheating. But basically I tend to avoid stealth when I can, because frankly, I'm not very good at it. And this game definitely affirmed me in this notion, because it showed me just how incompetent I am when it comes to sneaking around. I almost always get caught. I still don't know how to beat the dogs without blowing them up. And even if I managed to take out 2 or 3 people successfully, encounters still always ended guns ablaze. However, I enjoyed this. I didn't see me failing in my stealth as a bad thing. It was more of like a how many people can I take out quietly to lessen the odds against me for when I bring out the guns. And after every fight, I felt a need to keep exploring every nook and cranny of the game to salvage ammo, materials, and other goodies. Despite rushing every day in my other endeavors just to have time to play this game for the limited hours I have to play games, I still took my sweet time once I was actually playing. The gameplay was just so gripping. They kept the style of the first game's combat but added to it with different weapons and mechanics. And like I said, I especially liked Abby's storyline when it came to the gameplay. But no matter if I was playing as Abby or Ellie, the gameplay always added so much enjoyment to the experience. Even even when I was dying to learn what happened next in the story. I of course love the moments of exhilaration when something unexpected happens, whether it's after 18 uneventful doors I open, the next one a person jumps me, or when I have to balance off a bridge that's like 300 meters in the air or something, or when I'm frantically running through a burning village or flowing down a raging river. It's always just when the gameplay is starting to get a bit repetitive, then something extremely stressful happens that leaves me needing a breather and the calmer gameplay, which helps me ready myself for the next big thing to happen. I also just quickly want to mention how good the melee combat feels. When I successfully dodge, punch, dodge again, slide to the left, punch, get blocked, anticipate, dodge, punch, dodge again, get hit, slide out, and await another attack, and so on. It's just a lot of fun. It's obviously not the most in-depth melee combat system in a video game, but these close quarters fights aren't that abundant, so they never felt stale to me. But sometimes there's something really magical about simplicity. Now, the technical aspects of this game are also just incredible. I don't want to spend too much time raving about the soundtrack or the graphics or the animations or the character designs or the voice acting. All of these aspects were amazing in my opinion. Naughty Dog may be the masters of storytelling, but they're also damn good at making beautifully run games. They're perfectionists, and I can't wait to see what's next for them. Hopefully, Last of Us 3 is coming down the line. However, all of this that I have just talked about with the characters that we have followed through 20 hours of a harsh and unforgiving journey, filled with betrayal, hatred, and loss, has led to the final confrontation between Abby and Ellie, and to me, this ending was perfect. Everything from seeing Ellie live her life at the farm with Dina and the baby being happy for the most part but not feeling content. Everything from just her facial features shows the signs of someone who is traumatized. One second she can be dancing with Dina and the baby, and the next her face will just show dread. She even has full-on panic attacks relating to Joel's death. All this guilt and confusion she's feeling leads to her leaving the farm, which is such a heartbreaking moment for both of these characters. Ellie had all the resources here to try and move on and live a peaceful life, which is ultimately what Joel would have wanted for her, but she doesn't feel whole, and she believes that Abby is what's preventing her from moving on. Dina is also just broken, as she believes that her and their baby couldn't fill this hole that was left inside Ellie's heart. I was praying that Ellie would stay, but it was not to be. And so Ellie sets out to journey across the country to find Abby, and after playing a couple hours more as Abby and Ellie in some very exciting situations, we finally get the last confrontation between these two. But nothing about this meeting felt satisfying. We find Abby tied to a cross, left out to die, almost unrecognizable at first. Ellie cuts Abby down, who then frantically cuts down Lev as well and heads to the boat. However, Ellie forces Abby to fight her. And I must say, I was feeling complete dread as I was hacking away at Abby with a knife. Every slice of her skin had me wincing because I didn't want to do this. I had just spent days playing as Abby, seeing her side of the story, watching her grow and basically mirroring Joel's story from the first game, which ultimately left me incredibly conflicted. This was of course the intention of the game, to get us invested in both of these characters so that this final fight would feel as emotionally conflicting as it did. Me saying it's unsatisfying is not a criticism of the game. No, the overall narrative and thematic purpose of the fight was absolutely flawless. Playing as Ellie trying to kill Abby just felt wrong, both because of my newfound appreciation for Abby, but also because I cared about Ellie and I didn't want her to go through with this, because killing Abby wouldn't bring back Joel, and it wouldn't give her inner peace. And this is what this game does so well. It places us in the character's shoes. Their problems become our problems, and their inner turmoil becomes ours too. Ellie not killing Abby may seem to some as a cop-out, but to me it was perfect. I've seen some people say that Ellie not killing Abby is supposed to insinuate that killing is bad, and that Joel wouldn't have wanted Ellie to kill Abby, but I just don't understand that at all. If you're looking for good morals, then this isn't the franchise for you. Joel, Ellie, Abby, and all the other characters are killers and survivors. Ellie has spent this entire journey killing countless people. That's not the moral of the story. Rather, Ellie realizes that killing Abby doesn't solve anything, it just keeps this cycle of hatred alive. But most importantly, this ending is about forgiveness. The first game is all about love and the horrible things people do for the ones they love, and this game has been very heavy-handed with themes of hate and revenge, but the true theme of this game is forgiveness. This story is about Ellie forgiving Joel, forgiving Abby, and forgiving herself. The moment that pops up in Ellie's mind at the end isn't just a random glimpse of Joel, it's from a very specific moment, the last time they saw each other, before his death. A moment where she tells him that she wants to try and forgive him for what he did. And this whole story has been motivated by Abby taking this chance away from Ellie forever. But at the end of the day, Ellie accepts that killing Abby won't help anything, so she sits in the water feeling empty. At the end, she returns to the farm to find Dina and the baby gone, and the game ends with Ellie playing her guitar, which has been a constant throughout the game, and we get another solemn and ambiguous ending. An ending that left me both amazed and satisfied with what an incredible journey I had just witnessed, but I was also craving more, and I think that's the mark of a great story. Now, is this game perfect? Not necessarily. There are definitely things that would put off some people. For example, if you deeply disagree with the death of Joel, and you've been very invested in Ellie's journey for revenge, then yeah, you're probably not going to be very happy about playing as Abby. And while I think that narratively, the switching between characters makes the ending so much more impactful, I still need to remember that this is a video game. And if someone doesn't want to play half the game because of a mechanic in the game, then the game has failed for that person. That's valid. However, there were also some issues I personally had with the game. For example, the pacing definitely did drag at times. Now, while I liked exploring every nook and cranny of the game, there were still times where I felt that a level was just a bit too long, and I just wanted to get a bit more story. I also think that for a post-apocalyptic zombie world, the zombie encounters are not nearly as engaging as the human encounters. Clickers didn't really have the same fear factor that they used to because I was always able to stealth kill them, whereas in the first game I spent a lot of time being anxious as hell trying to sneak past them. However, the dogs in the human section were the bane of my existence. I hated them. I hated killing them, and I hated that I wasn't better at countering them, but that's of course my problem. Overall, I had such a blast playing this game, which sounds weird since this game is so dark and depressing. However, despite feeling some of the most dread I've ever felt in a video game before, the moments of light and warmth always gave me just enough will to continue a little bit more with this unforgiving but damn solid story. This is a game that I'll definitely have to replay again soon, mainly so that I can actually use all my cool weapons during the last gunfight, which I definitely didn't know was the last chance I had to just go ballistic with all my ammo, and instead I was trying to save as much of my ammo as possible. This has happened to me twice now, and I'm sad. But that's all I had for today. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this game down below. I'll try to read all your comments. Keep a lookout for future videos on The Last of Us 2, but without further ado, I just want to thank my patrons, say thank you for watching, and peace out.